take you on a deep dive into that NEC meeting today. We're joined in studio by our reporter Govan Whittles, who is tracking the story. So, Govan, where do we begin understanding the saga around the president at 7 o'clock this Friday morning?
Well, we need to look towards what he's likely to face in that NEC meeting. Yesterday, there was great expectation that we would have a substantive response to the findings of the report and possibly indicating his next move.
Yeah.
We've seen the president's allies come out ahead of him, not only talking about what the report means for the ANC, but looking at the potential reviewing of this report. Already there's some reporting from professors at UCT, Richard Callan, saying that there may be room to review this report. And he'll go into that meeting now facing his opponents in the ANC that are likely to launch an even stronger attack with more basis for him to step down. Remember, at the last NEC, that charge was led by a minister in his cabinet and also a nominee for the president's position, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And Dr. Dlamini Zuma had stood up and said that she believes the president should step aside because he kept the money in a couch. In his response to the independent panel, he said that that money was placed under the couch's cushions because the person, Mr. Ndlovu, who was running the farm at the time, believed it wasn't safe in the safe. Too many people had access to it. The independent panel finds that if it were under the cushions, it would have been too easy to spot. So they then speculate that it was likely inside a leather sofa, i.e. it was placed there to conceal it professionally or at least with some effort to make sure that it was stashed away. Yeah. So that gives us an indication that the insinuations used by the independent panel will likely be used in the NEC meeting to say that the same concerns we had, the independent panel has, and they say that you may have violated South Africa's laws and the Constitution, and now we have a stronger reason to call for you to step down as the head of state. And looks like his allies will have to do a pretty good job of defending him this time. If he doesn't intend on reviewing that report, they might not have much room to wiggle in defending the president.
So those who are fighting in the president's corner are essentially saying you should Zuma this moment.
Yeah, well, you should delay it, and it's 2 weeks to conference. The president, remember, he still has a consolidated position within the ANC. This independent panel report is the strongest attack on the president yet. There's still some investigations that are due to come from the Reserve Bank. We haven't heard from SARS yet in terms of this investigation, but even though the independent panel finds that he may have broken the law, he goes into conference with a massive lead in nominations to be re-elected for a second term. He goes into conference having secured massive future investments from South Africa's biggest trading partner in Europe, that'll be the UK, getting an endorsement essentially from the king for the second term, having opened up the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement, being in a strong position on the SADC, within the SADC countries, and certainly having endorsements from nearly all of the provincial leaders of the ANC. Before this report, he was consolidated and ready to go into a second term. Newzroom Afrika asked him in London whether he's worried this could unseat all of his plans and remove him from office prematurely. He said he wasn't worried. And he said he has full faith in South Africa's democracy. Right now, we know that he's convened his advisors to talk about what the next move is likely to be, how it affects his plan for the second term. And what we anticipate is that at the NEC meeting, they'll put up a strong defense of the president. If they lose, we're likely to get a special announcement on Sunday. But at this point, it does look like they intend to put up a fight.
So various permutations. I mean, we're 2 weeks to the day today for conference, right? It's not next Friday, it's next of next week, the 16th of December, that the ANC's elective conference goes ahead. It's the biggest political moment in South Africa for this year. And there are so many permutations about how it goes ahead, or in fact, whether it does go ahead.
Yeah, that is the big question, and also one of the key deadlines that has passed just before this report has been released has been the Electoral Commission's vetting of the candidates that are going to stand. Kgalema Motlanthe, the head of that Electoral Commission, yesterday held a briefing, didn't indicate that they intend to review their approval of the president as a candidate to stand for that election. We know that the Treasurer General's office, the Acting Secretary General, Paul Mashatile, has indicated there's 3,900 branches that will be taking part in this conference. It's going ahead with the President holding the support of a majority of them. He's by far, him and Paul Mashatile, the only candidates that appear to be safe in positions for President and Deputy President, unless something dramatic happens from the floor at conference, which, because of this report, we can't write off at this stage. But whether or not that'll happen will be determined by the works of the NEC this afternoon. It's a special NEC, which means it's called just for this purpose, which means they don't have the regular conversations about what to do about conference, whether conference is ready. Last time, remember, the President being attacked, and Gwede Mantashe is telling them that, guys, we have to plan a conference. You're focusing on the Phala Phala report. Let's finish planning the conference, then have that discussion. That kicked the can down the road for the President. But this time, they're walking in there and they're starting with the independent panel report, which means there'll be a long list of speakers. And the President's foes, his opponents within the ANC, certainly lining up to confront him about that. We'll, of course, have our ear to the ground. We'll be at Nasrec to hear from those people who are defending the President and those who would be calling for him to step down.
Yeah, all of those various scenarios playing out over the next few hours this Friday. Govan Whittles, our reporter, tracking the big story of the day. In fact, let's